I'll start. So, to begin with, very straight to the point, and suggestion covered by the opening government, we disagree, and the stance coming from the opening opposition is very clear. We believe that beauty is as beauty does, right? We don't think that there is absolute standard of ugliness, but furthermore, for the government to promote this vague and ambiguous standard, I think we're going to see more clear harms within the society, and further does not fit in what the government has eventually, the cause behind affirmative action. But before that, before going on to my case, to talk about why, for instance, firstly, why ugliness is not a subjective value, and secondly, why it's not really a structural problem as affirmative action is purposely made for, I'd like to disagree with the kind of ideas that came from the opening government in the first place. So firstly, on the analysis of a status quo, Madam Speaker and Mr. Speaker, we believe that their analysis of the status quo where ugly people are completely deprived from social opportunity itself is actually wrong. I clearly see JD as being praised and wanted by many, many women in his local.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
His appearance is solely the factor behind this popularity, right? He has this personality, the guts, and I won't say furthermore the capacity that he has that we can guess. But anyhow, we think as the case demonstrated by Jeong Oppa, right? It's not your looks that makes you become desired by the people. It's other things that, such as personality, as capacity, as money, or other things, sexual attractiveness and whatnot. We think these are the kind of things that make us an attractive people, and our society is mature enough to actually embrace this diversity that's embedded within individuals, not just the sole look itself. And then this idea about how society has always conceded to the standard of beauty. We disagree, because we think that society, yes, there was standards of beauty, such as big boobs or big asses. Even we see that in Stone Age, where we see these Venuses made out of stones that are carved with big boobs. But actually, this was not really to promote appearance per se, Mr. Speaker. It was actually to promote this idea of health, right? Of giving birth, right? Because these messages were implemented within having this body structure. Even our ancestors within the Stone Age preferred beauty that was embedded within the behavior and actions of individuals, not the look itself. So we think that the images of appearance that's solely being promoted under this policy is actually false. But then, of course, she talks about why this idea is, that there is a clear problem. We think that that's this pretty much clear problem-solution mismatch, right? Because we think if you want to solve the ideas of corporations banning and discriminating individuals, of their looks, then ban the companies from putting your photos within the resume, right? And we think that a lot of companies are actually doing this, right? And the fact that certain occupations actually prefers certain kind of, looks, such as skinny bodies or tall bodies, right? Whereas, certain occupations may not really think that tall bodies are attractive. We think that itself clearly shows that our society is actually preferring the versatility within individuals, and there is no one single spectrum of what is a beautiful and what is preferred and desired look within individuals. Yes, JD?
Isn't it contradictory to say at one hand you agree with the corporate's policy of preventing them to put images on all the photos, and at the same time, in principle, you go against, you say like socially they're so mature to negate the factor of beauty?
I'm just saying that if certain companies are doing that as a social practice is a problem, then banning that practice itself can actually deviate the problems that you mentioned. But we think the society as a whole is actually moving into this value of embracing diversity, and we think that it's fine to leave with the status quo. So moving basically briefly to the opening opposition's case. Firstly, this is not a cliche argument. This is one of the most important arguments that we need to promote in this debate. We think that ugliness is not an absolute thing, right? We think it's very, very subjective. Why? Because we clearly see that long ago fat people were promoted as very, very beautiful and something that we thought was positive, while we see that and we associate that with fast food and laziness and whatnot. We think these images are actually constructed and not really absolute. And we think that in order to change these kind of construction, we think the job of the government is actually to deconstruct the kind of messages that's being implemented within these images, right? But secondly, we think there is more harm to this government saying that this look is actually ugly and this look is actually pretty. We think that's actually going to cause two problems. Firstly, we think it's going to cause the division and grouping against individuals by saying that you're simply superior and you're simply inferior. We think society doing that implicitly, we cannot help it because we're human beings at times, but we think government being an actual neutral and objective actor telling the individuals that you are actually stupid and not stupid, like inferior, and your appearance is not really attractive, so we will give you this kind of acceptance, this kind of affirmative action. We think that itself is sending a wrong message to the society. But secondly, we think much more further harm is actually going to cause, because we think we didn't hear the end goals of the opening government, right? Precisely because there is no end goal to beauty, Mr. Speaker. We all see and hear the cases of people being addicted to plastic surgery, people being addicted to buying and shopping and makeups and whatnot, right? We think when government actually forces and coerces individuals to subjectify themselves to a standard that is never going to be fulfilled in the first place, we think this is actually going to make individuals more vulnerable and more weak, and that is not the legitimate action that the government should take. Like they talked about this example of Hyewon and Wonbin, but how long can their popularity and can their beauty actually be, loved, right? These individuals also feel very coerced to develop their faces and develop their bodies, right? We think there is no end game in this desire, and we don't think the government should be the one to promote this. But second levels of argumentations, why we do not think that this really fills in the purpose of affirmative action. Us, Hyewon also kindly provided to us this definition, right? We think this is about historically discriminated people, and the reason why government, promotes this in certain spheres, such as workplace or universities, is because diversity needs to be represented within these spheres, and because these individuals are historically discriminated from actually entering the spheres because of something that they're born with, right? The government steps in and tells these entities to get rid of it, right? But we think that this is clearly not the case within the so-called ugly people that they say, right? Because we think what we're actually doing is we're labeling them and stigmatizing them as the beneficiary of these kind of artificial standards, that what is actually going to do is they're actually going to be stigmatized more and be more isolated. And we think this is actually going to deviate the diversity that we want to achieve from affirmative action in the first place. So, Mr. Speaker, we are living actually in a very good century, right? Where JD... with my love, right? Either all of us, right, are loved by who we are, not by the way we look. For these reasons, we're very happy to oppose.